Hi, my name is Debbie Samuels, and I get to bring you the Daily Devo today. This whole week, I have been thinking about the moment where Joshua led the Israelites across the Jordan River into the Promised Land. How epic is that? And now in Joshua 5, we're finding that they are now in the Promised Land, and God has told them He's going to give them the city. But they don't know how it's going to be done yet. You know, Joshua may have looked back because he just brought over 1 million people across. And there's men, women, children, animals holding their tents, dragging their luggage. This is a pretty ragtag army. And they're coming across just looking for what they're going to do next. But one thing this group has is they have the fear factor. Take a look with me in Joshua 5, verse 1. Now when all the Amorite kings west of Jordan and all the Canaanite kings on the coast heard about how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they crossed over, their hearts melted in fear and no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. Any military leader in the world would say, this is the time to attack. Your enemy is defeated. Go on in. But this isn't God's plan. He still had work to do with the Israelites. So the first thing he says to them as you read along, he says, make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again. Now, why would he do this? But if you look back at the covenant between God and the Israelites, there was an agreement made that they were to be circumcised. Now, for the last 40 years, none of the men have been circumcised. And God was calling them back into a place of obedience. They need to be at a holy place with God before they go to war. So the men made the flint knives, and thousands of men were then circumcised. They're in no shape or form to go ahead and battle against the Canaanites. So the next thing that God says to them is, now you're going to worship. I want you guys to celebrate the Passover. Now, one thing you may need to know is they've only done the Passover twice. The first one was in Egypt when the angel of death flew over, and the next one was right after they left Egypt. So for 40 years, many of the people on that trip have never seen a Passover. And so I can imagine the emotion that came up with the stories of what the Passover was. For the first time, they're putting blood on the doorway of their tent. And they're preparing the food that's going to be eaten during the Passover. And if you remember, they've only had manna for 40 years. And now they are able to make the unleavened bread and roast the grain. What an amazing time that must have been. See, Joshua was told at the beginning of this book, God gave him specific instructions. If you look in Joshua 1, he says, be strong and courageous over and over again, because he had a very important message to give to Joshua. And it was be strong and very courageous and be careful to obey. See, God was bringing the Israelites back to obedience. Obedience with circumcision and obedience with the Passover. I have the privilege of praying with people from all over our city and in our church. And sometimes I hear people pray for a new revelation. And I wonder what God thinks of that sometimes, because I can hear God saying, I have given you revelation. This book will revolutionize you completely. But there is a cost to it. And that cost comes through obedience. It feels like in this day and age that we're living in right now that we are in a battle. There seems to be sides drawn, and we're going to war almost every day. So these two principles of coming back to obedience to God and coming into worship to prepare for warfare is for us today. I love how the story ends, and it says that here in Joshua 5 at the end, it says, now Joshua was near Jericho. He looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went to him and said, are you for us or for our enemies? And the man answered no, because that was the wrong question. But as a commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Joshua recognizes this. He recognizes these words because he heard Moses tell him the story of when he was by the flaming bush. And especially the next thing, because Joshua said, what do you want? What message do you have, my Lord? And he said, take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. To be on holy ground, we need to be in obedience to the word, and we need to be in a place of worship to him. So church, be strong and courageous and obey what he has to say. We hope that you join us for our online services, and they come up online today, or you can meet with us in person tomorrow, Sunday, either at the 6 a.m. service, 9 a.m. service or the 6 p.m. service. We really hope to see you there. May God bless you today.